Hi everybody, how you doing? It's about probably about 3:30 or something like that. Out and about, the sun's out. Of course, clear sky. Got down to 32 degrees last night. Super cold. And I just noticed that a message has come on my phone. It says extreme cold for 250 million Americans. So I wonder what's going to happen. So I think I better look at the weather report and see if it's taken a big dip from the Arctic. Um, Interesting. Oh, that looks like a cool image. See, when I look from it from a distance, right there. What if that's a? You know what that is? It's an animal. That's interesting. I wonder if that's a horse. Looks like a horse. Right there. That's what I'm talking about. Anyway. Oh yeah. Remember I was telling you a while back about I think that's one thing in life that I've always enjoyed doing is smoking and having a cup of coffee and absorbing the sun, relaxing, kind of chilling out. I know what people got their ways of saying, oh, this, that's bad for you, this is bad for you. Oh my gosh. But they're so worried, if you really technically think about it, if people are really worried about what's bad for them, they would stop drinking. Um, they would stop eating manufactured food, considering that I just seen a thing on Facebook. Let's see. Let me turn on this side just in case. I just seen a thing on Facebook um, where they were talking about, I think it was from the 1960s forward to present day, of how the heart attacks, heart disease, obesity, diabetes, how they all um, inflated, how it just expanded in America. And they went, of course, you always go directly to the food and how the food's being prepared. And that's what it is. It's all this like ready-made foods. They take out the fiber. They take out the fiber and they replace it with other things with the fiber ability, because fiber doesn't, I guess the shelf life of fiber doesn't last that long in food. So they remove the fiber out of the food. Well, fiber, is what we need for our body. Um, I don't know much more about fiber. I should check it out. But I know in the food groups that they talk about that you should have daily is you should have fiber. Well, if you're not eating fiber and you're eating all these prepared meals that without the fiber in it, you think that you're having fiber in it, because a lot of these meals are enticed to get you to like them and stuff. So anyway, just throwing that out there. I know I sometimes get on a tangent, but hey, I think it's very important because I'm sure a lot of people look at that and think, or they say, "Oh, it's been in my family bloodline, for a long time." Well, that may be, but what I know is in their bloodline is their mindset of their eating habits. Like my family, they go around eating margarine. They don't eat the real butter. They eat this oil-based butter. So they got diabetes. They eat prepared foods, McDonald's and stuff like that all the time. So they're eating all that type of foods that make them obesity, that causes their heart problems, is causing their, the what do you call that, cholesterol rising. So again, it's going back to people really, really cared about, smoking such a bad thing, and they're worried about that. How about the things that they're putting in their body? And saying, "Oh, That's inherited or whatever. The only thing that's inherited is our mindset. That's what's inherited. Just like my cousins were saying, about drinking wine every day. They drink about a bottle of wine every day, just for one of them, and they're just like, oh, Jesus created wine, and he made wine there, so everything, so Jesus is recognized as wine and stuff like that. So that's their excuse for drinking wine. It's kind of interesting because they kind of bring in the spiritual, the religious part about it, but then they get so drunk as a skunk and start using foul language and kind of disrespecting God's name and putting his name in vain. So is that really God's spiritualness? So I guess another thing I want to talk about is the children. Remember how Trump got elected and it's all about, saving the children. All through his elections, saving the children. There's the B. Saving the children. Well, this second time around, there's not been anything mentioned about saving the children. It's all about saving him. No, they're not being fair to me. They're not being just. So you don't hear anything about the children anymore. I noticed that when they're going out interviewing these Trump rallies, no one mentions anything about saving the children. They're saving Trump. They're, make him president back again. This is fraud, So everything is totally forgotten about the children. And Halloween, my cousin, and I've mentioned it on one of her posts, and one of her friends gave me a thumbs up, so she understood it. And I know she understood it from even today's post that my cousin put up, because my cousin's all about the Halloween. She likes decorating. She's just that type of person, likes wearing makeup. And she's 10 years older than me, so she's about 68, 67. And she's putting out a lot of these witch things where they're, got children tied up and talking about cooking children. And they have children in cages. And I wrote on there, I said, this really isn't funny, considering we're trying to save the children, yet no one's talked about the children since Trump has left office. Not even Trump himself has talked about saving the children. It's like that topic is kind of went and gone. It's just like even the people that on the January 6th thing, that went in, now they're in jail for like 10, 15 years or whatever, and waiting on Trump to pardon them. So that's what they're thinking, right? So they did this to go to jail for Trump. And then if you look at the 18 that got indicted, now they're taking plea deals because they're not going to jail for Trump. It's so interesting when you look at this, and especially during the spiritual time of Halloween and the sacrifice and the children and Jesus' blood. That's innocent. It really makes you think. And then your own family, she's like, oh, it's just Halloween. It's just a joke. Well, on the spiritual level that we already know the light and dark, it's not a joke. I mean, it's, and then they put it out like there's these jokes and they say, oh, Casey, come on, have some humor. I see no humor in witches or people, wanting to cook up children. I see nothing funny about that because we know it's being done in this world, in this reality. So how could you even think about posting that? So to get to my point, she posted another kind of witch-like thing today, and she also put on there, or one of her friends put on there, that's not right, Debbie. And Debbie just laughs at her. My cousin just gives her a funny laugh icon. And that's where I was like thinking, they're just not getting it. And they're Trump supporters, true. So that's another thing what I was saying about the cult and the culture, who they listen to, who they don't listen to, who they follow, who they're programmed by. And then that's interesting too, is because they're also saying, well, it's because the world's programming to listen to Biden, to listen to the LGBT, to listen to this or that. But they don't even see themselves as being programmed, but by Trump, because they only listen to Trump. And so again, I'm not for Trump. I'm not for Biden. I'm not for the red and blue. I'm for the white pillar. I'm in the center. I'm not for Israel. I'm not for Palestine. I know it's a trap because Who's paying for it? The American taxpayers. Biden, the crime, so they're doing this all on purpose. And they're getting the people divided and getting them all excited. But the people are now bringing the war here. So it's kind of interesting how the people can be played and they're not even seeing it. They're literally clueless. And I got to thinking about earlier, I was just like, the scarecrow man come in. If I only had a brain. It's like when I've seen all these people jumping out in front of cars for, for the fuel, climate change and fuel, out in the freeways and stuff. Usually they would take these people in for mental health treatments, but they don't. They just allow it to go on. Don't arrest them. Some places are arresting them. But they just allow them to walk out there. These people need mental help. You just don't. I mean, considering the thing about it is that they all drove to these locations in a vehicle. And the vehicles that are usually around it that you see, you don't usually see an electric vehicle. Of course, I'm not really focused on it, but it's just a part of being the hypocrites of this world. And the scarecrows are like, if they only had a brain. Then you got the Tin Man at the heart. You got people who have a heart, and you got people who take hearts. You've got the lion. You got the cowardly lions that don't stand up, but they sit behind the screen, and they don't make videos, and they just bitch about everybody and complain to everybody, but they don't talk about it, make videos about it, express about it. And it's just like a lot of my friends. I'm like, well, why don't you stand up? They don't stand up. They just make comments about it, And then their friends and family don't like their comments because they're making up their political leaders. So then, they stop doing it because, their friends are stopped following them. This is what I'm saying. They're so divided. Just like the religion, when I was saying Christ is down the middle, it's one leg. My right side, King David, Judaism, and my right side, my left side is Islam, Mother Mary, the Queen Mother. So you got three legs to stand on. Like I was saying, it's like the podium to a classroom, right? You got three legs that holds up the podium, the temple kind of like thing. I don't know. I just think it's really interesting when they give us these movies and they show them, even the Yellow Brick Road, the gold in this world, how right now during the end times, everybody's like, all these guys are like, use my code and, go, get this stock in gold, all the stock market, right? So put all your money into the stock market for gold. And I'm like leaving comments like, what does it matter? Wouldn't it be better to get the physical gold in your hand instead of feeding it to a market that when it crashes, you're not going to get anything back? They're not going to say, oh, here's a couple of bricks of gold for you or whatever. And then money's not going to exist, so they can't give you money. And they're not going to give you the gold. So, again, I guess I don't know, it may just be me being aware and knowing and seeing this, but I just want to express it to people, whether if they listen or not. I don't, that's not my deal. But it's very important that we keep stressing. I keep stressing to my family and friends, and they just laugh at me and joke me off. But it makes me look at them as, where they stopped learning in life. And they stopped really early in life learning. It just went into partying. Remember, I went through a partying phase for a long time, but even my partying phase, I was still learning, still going to college, taking a class here and there, moving up in all my jobs up to manager. And then if I get bored up to that manager's position in that job, I go to another job and I end up starting at the bottom, working my way up again. But it's doing something different. And I think that's another thing about my life compared to my family's in the history of my extended family. They stay at jobs for like 30, 40, 50 years at one job. And they're like old, cranky. They don't want to study. They don't want to learn. They don't want to do anything. And that's one thing that I'm glad I never did. I'm glad I went from this job to this job to this job and worked my way all the way up to manager or a position of authority over people. Authority means like training, having knowledge to help them learn and get it up into higher positions as well. Then I move on. I think that's what we all should be doing. I think that's what Congress should be doing. I think when these old crows get to a certain position, there should be term limits and they should get out and move somebody else in to keep evolution, keep the world to evolving. But these old crows stay in there until they die and never giving anybody else a chance because they're stuck in their ways and they don't want the world to change. They want war all the time. There's, like I was saying, there's no way that America's ever. They say they want peace, but America is pretty much the only nation that creates weapons. It's just like Biden said, when they're giving all this money to Ukraine, they're actually giving our old weapons and tanks and artillery and stuff to Ukraine, and we're replenishing ours. And he goes, good old American weapons, right? We're sending our American weapons over into Iran, Iraq, and everywhere. Now they've got use of all these, when we leave the area. So it's interesting that America is actually the only thing America is good for, and they say they want peace all the time, but their controllers of government want war all the time because that's what operates. They've taken every other job and given it out to China and all these other countries and pretty much made America this, what do you call it? Of weapons, even of cars. So it's kind of like that industrial, what do you call that? Metal industrial age or something like that. It's quite interesting because they, how they got that age cycle, humans go through this. I can't even quite remember, but I remember seeing like this diagram and it shows how we go through certain stages in life, humanity. And I think it was the bronze stage, not the bronze, or something like the builder kind of like thing. Which makes me think of they're keeping America back in time, being the war machine, but they're like saying, oh, peace, peace, and then giving our billions of tax dollars to all these countries to start wars. So, and then people refuse to look at their own nation and go, if you don't like America, then get out. I'm like, I didn't say I didn't like America. I was born here. I was raised here. The land is perfectly good, well, and there's nothing wrong with the land. It's those in power that are the war machine. So, no, I want them removed. We should all want them removed. But again, that's the thing about, the idol worshiping of humans. They're always going to idol worship something. They need something to see. They need something to bow down to. They need something to kneel to. So they make these images of God or of heaven or of Lucifer, their devil or whatever. They're always making images and idols. And God says in Scripture, bow down to no man. Bow down to no statue. Do not create anything of anybody's image. Yet, when you mention it to your family and friends, they think you're loony. Maybe I am.